Hi, my name is Sarah. Thanks so much for doing this today. You know what? I thought I was going to be great at this hour-long thing, but it is pretty hard. I'm choosing to look at myself while I film um, because I struggle so much with videos. I always avoid Zoom calls and everything with family because it's just makes me feel uncomfortable. I'd rather be in person talking to people or straight on a phone. So I even said to my husband as I was getting ready to film this, can't I do a road trip and just go to you guys and talk, because I feel like that would be so much easier. But it's okay. It's a good challenge. And we'll see how it goes. Basically how I came to you guys is when I got married 5 years ago to my husband. He was super into personality types, and I had kind of always been involved in it, like lightweight, like at leadership camps or whatnot. Prior to getting married, you'd do like, oh, what's your color, or what animal are you? But that was pretty much the extent of any personality typing system that I encountered before getting married. But when we were kind of on the road towards getting married, we did a couple different like personality type things, kind of just in our pre-marriage, kind of getting to know each other. And I knew that he enjoyed that and he liked it. But for me, I always felt like I kind of manicured my responses to what I wanted to say. But I would still do them, and I would get what I wanted as a response most of the time. And my husband always knew that about me too. He knew I did that, and he's aware of that too with testing, which is why we both like kind of this idea of me just talking and seeing what comes out of it. But basically, yeah, that's the beginning of how we got here. I also, like, I always want it to be, yeah, that I'm go with the flow and that I am creative. I always kind of gear my answers to that. But practically in life, if I'm being completely honest, I do consider myself creative, but I just am a lot more rigid on certain things than I guess I let on in personality tests. But anyways, that was kind of just the initial how we got here. I think I'm gonna look at my prompts because I'm struggling already. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll go like a life story kind of thing. Growing up, I had a mom who was really young, so we moved around a lot. Went to a lot of new schools. I was kind of used to being the new kid. I was always really good in school. Academically, it was really important for me to achieve high grades and get the approval of my teachers. So much so to the point where in college, my average was 99%. It was just under 99% in across all my classes. And so my teachers would say, oh, Sarah, you're such a keener, or brown noser, or any of those words were definitely used to describe me academically. And it would be really hard for me if I would ever lose a mark on an assignment, and I would have to fight really hard to prove to my teachers that I was right and those grades, I deserved it, and I fulfilled the instructions on the assignment. There was a lot of tension with my teachers and arguing with me saying I think this is their bias coming out because based on this rubric I fulfilled everything, so I felt like I deserved full marks for that. But I fought through and I managed to get those grades that I did, and I was the valedictorian of my school for college, so that was a pretty big accomplishment for me. But at the same time, I've always felt like it wasn't that much work other than the arguing with the teachers. I've always felt like I've done well academically. I was also slightly involved in sports. Growing up, I did racing, so I did a lot of running and swimming. I wasn't really good at the team sports, but with running and swimming, I did well and I enjoyed it. Running is something that I was doing up until I got married and life got crazy. But yeah, so that's kind of that. I lived in South Africa for 4 years when I was a child, when my mother married my stepdad. So that was a really big impact on my life. I felt like I kind of understood things going on a little bit more in the world. I got a lot of exposure to people that don't have as much, even as from compared to what I had growing up before my mom got married. Like, we lived in shelters on a couple occasions, and I was definitely used to being in low income communities in Canada, but it was definitely a whole new world going to South Africa. And kind of my parents kind of went there with the original goal of kind of being a missionary. So it was like definitely we were ingrained in a lot of communities that were less privileged than other areas of South Africa. But yeah, it was definitely a weird contrast for me. I went to a private school because we had wealthy families that were willing to pay for that for me. But we lived in a very small house, and so kids would say, "Oh, you live in a shack. Your house is a shack compared to ours." So it definitely was challenging in that sense, but I always felt like I had to fight, like, for proving myself. So I would say, no, like, this is awesome. I'm doing great. And so I think I've kind of always had that kind of social justice kind of fighting. Even now, like, I find I'm very resourceful. Like, I'm always trying to find different community partners that can help our family, and couponing. I'm really big on couponing and price matching and finding the lowest deals for everything. I know that sounds all over the place, but must have got there somewhere. I've always really wanted to be like a life skills teacher. I used to work at a pregnancy support center, and one of my favorite jobs there was getting to be involved in doing life skills. And so I'd do like budgeting, meal planning, all that kind of stuff. Basically, those are my favorite: budgeting and meal planning, and couponing, and anything that can help you financially. And then my other big thing that I'm super interested in currently is just finding resources. So for my kids, I'm always wanting to find like different programs for them to be able to do sports or to be involved in activities like arts and different programs. I have 5 kids, so I'm definitely always looking for anything to help us save money. So I am the one between me and my husband that deals with all things financial and just like any practical things. Like, I do the taxes, I apply for our passports, I do all of that. I worry if I ever died what my husband would do, because it definitely is me that has everything kind of under control. And I try to once in a while be like, do you know where these things are? And sometimes he answers right, sometimes he doesn't. So we're working on that. But at the same time, I don't want to have him deal with anything. I'm very happy in that position. But yeah, so that's kind of money-wise what we do too. I feel like I'm being very brief. I thought I would do so great because I literally have been in counseling my whole life. And I was like, I can talk for an hour easy. But it is different, I think, not being with a person physically, with like prompts and questions. So we'll see. But yeah, so kind of a little bit upbringing, I guess. Yeah, like I said, my mom was a single mom. She had me very young. She was 19 when I was born, so she was like the fun mom, and she was really cool. But at the same time, like, she had a lot of struggles and different things that she had to go through. When she got married, I thought this was awesome. Got a new family. There were still issues that happened with the new relationship. They're still together today, but it is definitely me and them don't have the best relationship, which is unfortunate. And that's something that I really have struggled with, because my whole life my mom was like really kind of controlling. Like, she'd be like, I'm right. If I have any opinion, it better be her opinion or no opinion at all. And so I kind of based all of my stuff off of what she would say, and I'd say, oh, well, I have to be this or that, because that's what my mom said, and she's right. There's no other option. So that's been a real struggle, I think, since getting married and being like, you know what, I need to find out my own kind of life and where I'm going and what I want. So that's been a big learning curve for me, and that's kind of part of why I'm here as well, is just I'd like to know who I genuinely am, not who I am through other people, because I really do struggle with that. I want people to approve of me or say, good job, Sarah, or you did great. I definitely want people to think that I'm put together and that I have everything established, so any kind of thing that kind of looks not put together, I struggle with. So yeah, that's the total opposite of my husband. I kind of wrote down what I wanted to say about that, so I'm gonna try to remember. Okay, so yeah, my husband, he's double masculine, NETI, CP/SB. So basically, I don't know how to, I'm sure you know what I mean, but I'll try to describe it. So he gets on my nerves so much because he comes off super insensitive, because he'll always use like language that I don't agree with, like swear words. And it just bugs me so much because he's so intellectual and smart, but also like outside of the box, that I feel like he should just be a chill, go with the flow guy. And that was kind of what I expected going into our marriage, that he'd be really laid back, kind of more reserved, more intellectual. But then at the same time, like now that we're getting to know each other more through being around each other 24/7, he's just super, yeah, insensitive, I guess is the best way to describe it. And because I know he's so smart and that he is kind of like countercultural and not trying to do what other people are doing, I assume in my head that that would come off in a more laid back way, but to me it comes off aggressive, and that bugs me. And then I'll tell him like, no, you should be like this would better portray who you are to me. Why can't you just act like that? And it just does not work out well. So yeah, that's definitely been a rough thing that we've been dealing with. I definitely think the other trigger that happens with that is I feel like I have a fear of people not thinking that I'm like deep, or smart, or yeah, deep. What's a better word than deep? What did I write? Yeah, I did deep. Surface level. Yeah. And so I really do rely on people's approval and saying kind of positive things about me. And so if my husband ever says like, oh, that was stupid, that's a real struggle in our relationship, because I'm like, I need you to say that I'm never stupid. Because I never want to be perceived as that. And so I guess that also plays into how I want everyone to see me, kind of in an ideal light. I want to definitely be perceived as someone that is kind of does everything right. And I think that definitely showed when I was in school, and I was able to achieve that easier in school. So I definitely felt like that was easily fulfilled. But now that I'm out of school and I'm at home with my kids, it kind of is only my husband that is kind of around 24/7. And he is not someone that is like that. He's not constantly saying, "Oh, you're doing so great," or he's not careful to never say anything that I count as negative. So that's definitely a challenge. What else? Yeah, I definitely do have pride in my intelligence. So I definitely want to prove to people that I'm smart. And that kind of goes with kind of my whole persona, is that when I'm around people, I want to show that I know what I'm talking about and that I can get things done, and that I won't get things wrong, and don't worry, I can do it all. I don't need anyone's help. So yeah, that is a huge thing for me. So if my husband ever even says that I'm being ignorant, I cannot handle it. Zero handle. Because to me, that's him saying that I don't know something and I don't deal with it well. So even when he'll tell me something that I don't know, I'll say, yeah, I know. And then he'll be like, did you know that? I'm like, well, I know it now. So the answer worked. So that's definitely something I've come to realize a little bit more. I think prior, like in the workforce, I definitely am not the most approachable person, because I do come off like I don't want people's help and I can do things on my own. And so I do struggle being in like a low level position at work because I feel like I should manage other people rather than them manage me. I want to, tell my bosses that I know better sometimes. And obviously I've learned that that's not the best idea, because that is a struggle. Managers don't want to hear that. But yeah, that is definitely my kind of general, how I see myself. I do a lot of like research into how I should be, when I'm at work. Like I'll learn the duties really quickly and I'll do them really efficiently. And so it is a struggle when I have like a fellow employee like correct me. I really struggle with correction. And even from a manager saying, oh, I did that wrong, when I have worked so hard to try to make sure I did something right. That is really hard for me to kind of accept. So I don't handle criticism well, if that's not clear yet. And then another issue that I've had with that in the workforce is being called a know-it-all. And so I will often say that I already know information, and sometimes I have already heard it, or I'll say it like I said to my husband as like oh yeah, I know, that's great. And I'll, in my head, I'm like, that's just me kind of agreeing or validating, but also saying I understand. But to the other people, it seems to come off that I don't need them. And that is not looked upon well when I'm lower level than they are and they're saying that to me. So that's been a challenge. I'm like, well, why can't I just pop on up to management first? But it hasn't worked out that way for me. So that has been hard for sure. And then I do find myself getting really emotional because when someone says, hey, Sarah, you were being a bit of a know-it-all in that situation, I just cry my eyes out. Like I cannot handle being talked negatively to, and it's just so devastating to me. And so it is challenging because then I feel like I'm being super emotional and I'm like, why am I crying so much? But I feel like someone attacked my character and said that I did something wrong, and it just is devastating for me when that happens. And I think a good example of that was I was in college doing my practicum for my program, and I was at an employment help center, and we had to go around to all the employment help center kind of workers and listen to a little blurb about what they do. But they all do the same job, just slight variance. So a lot of times we would go from one person to the next and they'd say, oh, just let me know if you've already heard this information and I'll skip through it because there's no point in hearing it twice. So they would constantly say that to me, and then I would go to them and we'd have that session and they'd say that and I'd say, yeah, so-and-so already taught us that. It was really cool, or whatever. Like I would say something like that, and then they would be like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. And then they'd continue with their thing and like skip that portion that we already kind of learned about. But then later on, after we had done all those rounds, my supervisor came to me and said, hey, Sarah, the employees don't like you. And it just like, it broke my heart because I was like, why? Like, what happened? And then she said, they're all calling you a know-it-all and they're not appreciating you acting like you already know everything when they're trying to teach you. And that was really tough for me because I was like, they told me to do that. So I'm like, they told me to tell them if we already had been taught something by a previous person so that they're not wasting time talking again. And here I was like, oh, well, I'm doing exactly what they asked of me. How could I possibly make someone upset? And of course I said that to my supervisor, and then she's like, yeah, sometimes you just need to let people talk when they want to, even if you've already heard it. And that was really challenging for me. And of course, even me saying that to the supervisor backfired, because then she went back to her fellow employees and told them all that I said that, and it was very tense, that placement, which was unfortunate because it was a job that I was really interested in, potentially pursuing later on, once I graduated. Because I'm so interested in helping people find resources, getting connected with jobs, interviews, and doing all that kind of thing is something that I really would have valued, and I enjoyed teaching. Like, I would teach their classes on WHMIS and the Employment Standards Act of Ontario or of Canada. I would teach that, and I loved it. I felt so good in that role, but it was just so tough socially with my potential coworkers because of that kind of clash there. So yeah, that was really challenging for me. And I hope that gives some insight into kind of me. Another big thing in my life was I actually got pregnant when I was 16. I had my stepdad, there was issues of abuse when I was younger, and it was gone, but then I really did struggle later on between what happened with the stepdad at the time and my mother kind of always being a single mom and saying guys only want one thing, and they don't want you to be smart, they just want you to put out, essentially, was how it felt like. And she would say that from a perspective of that's wrong, that's what is the reality, but that's what you're stuck with. And so I definitely thought that I had to find my identity in a guy approving of me. And unfortunately in high school, guys approving of me, to me, felt like it meant I had to be sleeping with them. Otherwise I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't good looking enough, or I couldn't be smarter than them, so I couldn't talk about my grades. So I would hide my grades from everyone. But then in the classroom it would come out because I'd be like answering all the questions to the teacher, because that was a situation where I flourished. So people that were in class with me really knew that I was good in school, but I would never talk about it further. And anyways, I ended up getting pregnant when I was 16. I had my wonderful son, who is 9 now. And that really changed things a lot. I really felt like I was able to thrive being a young mom, because I was able to use kind of my skills to really like organize my life, move out on my own, prove that I can pay rent and budget groceries on a super low income, and find out all the resources I needed to get help, like grocery gift cards or programs for my kid and things like that. And I was super committed to breastfeeding. I attended all prenatal classes. I got really involved in my community, and I would always be the person to go to for like information on things related to pregnancy and being a young mom. And that was awesome for me. I loved it. It was fantastic. I still love that now. I got married to my husband, who is not the biological father of my oldest, but when I was 21, we got married. We met actually in Honduras during my college program. My college did like a integration trip, and I thought it would be great to kind of see another country, get some exposure again, because it had been so long since I had done anything internationally, and kind of get something good for my resume, because my program was social service worker, so all social services essentially is what I was interested in getting involved with. So we went there. He was a teacher there at the place where we went, and he was a history teacher at the school that we volunteered at, and he just came off so cool and laid back and chill. He was just sitting in his classroom, lighting an incense stick and reading a book, and didn't even care that we were walking by. And I loved that because he didn't care. It didn't seem like he cared at all. So we ended up talking, and we decided to start a relationship. We talked about a lot of things, and it was just awesome because there was no physical expectation because I was back in Canada and he was in Honduras. So we spent the entire 6 months while we were apart just talking on Skype every single day, asking each other questions, getting to know each other. And I felt like I did really well. I felt like I had that kind of chance to think about the questions he was asking me if it wasn't very involved in something that I had familiarity with, so I could kind of come back to it the next day without the pressure to have to respond during that conversation. So that was really great. And yeah, anyways, we got married 6 months later, and he's been living here in Canada with me ever since. We've been married 5 years. In September, we were married 5 years, and we have had 4 more children since getting married. So we have a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and I have one that will be 2 in December, and then we have a 3-month-old. And yeah, that's been our life right now. I'm just trying to read my notes quick and make sure I'm talking about everything I want to talk about. Okay. One thing that I've kind of learned that I didn't realize I kind of was separate from, was I have very strong imaginative abilities. So like I can picture something in front of me while we're talking. Like if you told me to picture a tree, I could look and picture a tree in front of me, and I could also close my eyes and picture a scene and think about things. And it's very clear. But the struggle with that is my husband is not like that, and so when he's talking, I get really distracted. And he might say like acorn, and then I'll like go off on a tangent in my mind that's something to do with an acorn. It'll maybe lead to a squirrel, who will lead to reminding me that I forgot to clean the gutters in our house. And then it'll go to all the other list of things that I need to do, and my kind of mind will just go to all of those things. And so that's a real challenge too. I like that I can do that. I fall asleep super easily because I feel like I can just imagine whatever I want and drift off to sleep. But it definitely is hard conversationally to not kind of get distracted or go off on a tangent, especially if it's a topic that I feel like I don't know about. I really struggle because I don't want to come off as someone that doesn't know something. So I tend to kind of disengage at that point. When I'm in a conversation, I like to kind of be the controller of the conversation, and kind of guide where it's going so that I know that I'm able to answer everything. Because as soon as something changes to something I'm maybe not great at answering, I definitely struggle there and get a little bit quiet at that point. So yeah, that's a challenge. Awesome. Yeah, so I also wanted to talk about my memory. I've always had, kind of similar to imagination, but I've always had a very visual memory. So in school, I really think that did help me to get the good grades that I did. Is I could like picture a page or go back to when I learned that in class, and I could see their screen during a test, their like PowerPoint or whatever, and be able to have the right answer, which has been awesome for me. But I always felt like as soon as the test was done and I knew I didn't need to know it anymore, or as soon as I'm in everyday life, I don't have that easy like being able to just bring it back up things. And so that's always a challenge, because when I'm talking to my kids or my husband or my family and they're like, oh, when did that happen or what happened, I feel like I'm not able to recall as well as I would if it was like something that I knew I was going to be graded on, or assessed on. So that's a real challenge for me, especially if I'm in a fight with my husband, because he'll be like, when did that happen? And if I feel like I can't answer perfectly, I feel like my whole argument has broken down and I can't prove him anything. Like I can't show that I was right or that I knew exactly what he did wrong in a situation. And so that's a challenge for me. Okay, so another thing that I'm very sensitive about is pain. I do not handle pain at all. I hate to even be like bumped in the shoulder. Needles terrify me. I think I've fainted with almost every pregnancy getting my blood drawn. And every time the nurses are like, why are you having another child if you can't even handle that? So pain is like my enemy. I hate it. I don't like to be in any pain or discomfort. I don't like it at all. But on the same time, I have been very passionate about having natural births. 3 out of my 5 have had no pain medication during labor. And 2 ended up with an epidural. And I was so devastated for one of the ones that had the epidural because I was very mad that ended up happening. But there's just something about when I'm in labor and having to birth a human, it's like so motivating that I don't even care that I'm in excruciating pain. I scream and yell, and the nurses know when I'm coming into the hospital because they can hear me from outside pretty much, because I am in such excruciating pain, but there's just some kind of determination that I feel like I can handle it, and I have successfully for more than half of my children, so I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of being like very kind of all natural with a lot of the things that I do with the kids. We do no added sugar until they turn 4. So only 2 out of our 5 are having any added sugar right now. We do no screens until 4 as well. So that's kind of just a big thing that we've done. I've been very passionate about breastfeeding only, so no bottles or soothers. That's something that I'm trying to always advocate for to people, but at the same time I don't want to come off as forceful in all my parenting choices, so it is a real struggle. I want people to kind of be educated, and I always want to educate people on what I think is maybe the best, but at the same time I don't want people to not like me. So that is a challenge because I'll be like, oh yeah, we don't do TV until they're 4, and then they're like, oh. So that is definitely a challenge. But anyways, I was talking mostly about pain. I struggle, but I love it when it's something that I'm I have a purpose for the pain and such a fulfilling ending to it. But I am also very, like, I fight a lot for things, and I'm okay with arguing and yelling, just not any physical. Yeah, I like debating if it's something I think I know the answer to, or something that I believe is right. I despise Trump. I think that's probably the accurate word. And that was a real challenge. I got married in 2016, just before Donald Trump was elected, to a family. My husband was from Tennessee originally. We met in Honduras, but he was from Tennessee, and his entire family are Christian conservatives who voted for Trump. And I was just meeting them for the first time, and my Canadian self, literally thought, okay, there's no way that people are actually Trump supporters in America. It's just impossible. Like, I would laugh with my friends, like, and think, this is impossible. I can't believe that people actually would vote for this person. It's disgusting and impossible. Like, it was just completely not in my mind as a possibility. And then I get to America to meet my husband's family, and they are all strong Trump supporters. And some of them would, like, use the argument, oh, well, it's because he's pro-life. But then, like, we would talk about it fundamentally, and they would be like, no, we agree with his choices. So there were a lot of fights, very heated arguments with me in probably the first 2 weeks of me meeting their family. So it was very quick when I was saying already, like, how dare you, as a Christian, vote for this man? I said, to me, the only Christian vote is liberal. That is just how I feel. I think if you are following God, you are supposed to be helping those that are vulnerable. And I'm sorry that abortion is on the wrong side of that, but we need to deal with the people that are here first. And so that was a huge thing that we were constantly fighting about. And I remember when my husband was submitting his application to live in Canada as a permanent resident, the website literally crashed because it was the day after Trump got elected, and so many people were like, get me to Canada. And I was like, yeah, I thought everyone was gonna say that. I didn't think there was any chance he was gonna win. It was devastating for me. I feel so bad for Hillary. I would have voted for her in a second if I could have. But yeah, so here in Canada, I actually vote NDP. That's our new Democratic Party. So I don't actually vote Liberal. I usually vote NDP. I don't really know how big the difference is, but the main thing I love about NDP in Canada is that they are pro taxing the 1%, and they want to make dental care affordable and free. So my ideal would be, obviously it's not free, taxpayer dental, but I would like dental to be included in our medical system, because that's just been such a struggle for me. Having, as an adult, having to pay for dental out of pocket is such a big burden. That I can't even imagine how much harder it would be for other people that are less resourceful than me and not able to find money-saving things like I am to help make it affordable. I just can't imagine what other people are going through, and so I am very passionate about that being something that is offered here in Canada. So they haven't won yet, sadly, but Justin Trudeau got in both times for the years that I was eligible to vote federally, which I was not mad at. I definitely am okay with him too. But I know that's a touchy subject, I guess. So is not liking Trump and wanting Hillary, though. So, and that's another thing that was really tough, is I had just gotten a new job that I had mentioned to you guys earlier about being a pregnancy support worker, helping women who are pregnant to, get kind of their life together if it's an unexpected pregnancy. And I was teaching prenatal classes, and so that was totally perfect for me. Awesome job. However, it was a Christian setting. So I learned quite quickly, actually, that more Canadians than I thought were pro-Trump. And I was devastated. I was so disappointed in my country. I was disappointed in my coworkers. I thought, how can I be associated with you? And it was really hard. And it's still hard now, even to come to terms with the fact that I actually like my husband's side of the family, even though they would vote for Trump again in a heartbeat. And so would the people that I worked with when I was a pregnancy options support worker. So that has been very interesting, learning that. And my husband kind of likes to play devil's advocate. He wouldn't call it that. He'll be like, no, I actually think all these things that I say. But no, he definitely tries to push my thoughts and opinions so that I have to question them. But yeah, he always will say things like, oh, they like Trump, or you know what, Trump is just helping this thing. And I'll be like, I hate you so much. But yeah, so that is kind of that. Politically, I don't think I addressed most of your guys' prompts, so I will go into those quick. So what is your average day or week like? I definitely take care of my kids before I take care of myself. I probably only showered today. This has been a week since I showered because I knew I wasn't going out of the house. So I showered for this video. And that was it. If I am engaged in society, then I'd be wanting to look very presentable and put together, but on my kind of general day, I know I'm home. And so to me, showering is a waste of time because there's no point if no one's going to see me. And there's so many things to do and so much on my list that I need to get it all done. So dealing with myself is kind of last on the list. So obviously I'll get my kids changed in the morning. I'll deal with them. We'll make lunch. Basically, I'm at home all day. So I'll alternate between playing with my kids, making them food, putting them to sleep, dealing with them being naughty, cleaning up after them, cleaning the dishes, picking them up and dropping them off from school. And then in between all of that, I'm very big on finding any deals that I can. I love collecting. So I collect Pokemon cards. That is a huge thing for me. It has been for the past 3 or 4 years. It's been awesome kind of finding something that I actually enjoy. I collect the people full art trainers is what they're called. Um and I'm very proud of my collection. I hate though when it's incomplete, so I'm constantly trying to find good prices on them because I don't want to overspend. But I want to complete my collection. So that is a very big portion of my time that I spend on my phone is dealing with that stuff. Another thing that I'm really big every day into looking into is kind of whatever thing I want to collect for the kids. Right now it's Playmobil, but the 1, 2, 3 version. And that one is harder to find. They're really sturdy, they're great. I could like advertise for them easily because I love the product so much. So I spend a lot of time trying to find deals and coupons and ways to get all of them for cheaper. And then in my shed, which is where I am now to hide from my family while I record this, I have just bins upon bins of future presents for my kids. So that's where that Playmobil goes until I find an excuse or a birthday, Christmas, or Easter to give it to them. I do the same thing with Pokemon products because I love Pokemon so much. I'm always buying Pokemon figures to save for them, Pokemon cards, Pokemon blankets, Pokemon everything because I love it so much and it's something I feel like we can do as a family, and I love that you can like personalize the game. And that's why I collect the people, because it makes them look, it makes your deck that you create to play Pokemon look really pretty, and I just want it to be like bedazzled, my deck. And so trainers are fundamental to the game, and so I collect a playset, which is 4 of every single trainer that has ever been released in English. So that when I make a deck, I can just stick them in my deck and make them look awesome. And I feel like they're timeless, they're beautiful, and it's kind of individuality. I'm a water and ice Pokemon is my favorite type, which is why I think for personality tests I always want to be like watery and go with the flow, but I'm definitely more harsh. Ice might be more similar to what I would be like. My husband likes to say that I'm more like a fire type, but he says I can take ice if I want it. But then he says, oh, but that's fragile and hard. And I was like, great. I guess I cry sometimes, so that's fine. But I do not want to be perceived as fragile. But I let him say it because he's my husband. But yeah, so I collect that. I'm huge My Little Pony, but specifically the 4th generation is something I'm also super passionate about. It was such a great show. My husband and I watched it with our son. And so I collect it like crazy. Any My Little Pony toys, I have bins and bins of as well. Big collector on that. And obviously I use them as gifts for the kids. Like I don't try to keep things sealed. That's not the type of collecting we have, but I just want them to be able to have like this world that they can watch the show of and then imagine it when they get home or when they're playing. And so I was super big into Barbies when I was younger, Barbies and Polly Pocket. And so I just remember loving to like pretend and act out these scenes and having a variety of clothes for them to wear and places for them to go, things for them to do. And I had hundreds of Barbies. And so I really resonate with that. And I really enjoyed that so much in my childhood that I want to give that to my kids. So I really like anything that they can kind of imagine and play with. So that's why the Playmobil, Pokemon, and My Little Pony are huge for me, and anything Disney Princess. I'm super committed to collecting those things. Collecting makes it sound like I live in a pile of trash, though. I always get afraid that people think I'm a hoarder. If you looked at the room I'm in now, you would say, yes, I am. But if you came into my house, like my main kind of space, it's very clear. I like to keep things very clean. I hate that my family trashes it the second I clean the whole thing, because if it was up to me, I would just be sitting in a little chair, not making any mess, cleaning up after myself really quickly so that when I have people over, it always looks perfect. And very clear. Clear everything. No things sitting on top of things. No papers laying around. I like it to be very organized in my actual living space. So that is a real challenge as a family of 7 and a lot of young kids. I do find that every time they nap, that's when I try to clean, but it doesn't happen every day lately. And so that's hard. I try during nap, though, as best I can. And my husband is not as careful about being clean as I am, so I feel like I'll try to clean the whole house and I'll say, don't step foot in the kitchen. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, I need to eat. And I was like, can't you just like eat this little piece of bread outside and then wipe off your face and then come back in? And he does not do that. So that is very frustrating for me because I would never have done that, but I'm having to adjust. So yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was talking about my daily schedule. So yeah, it's managing kids and then looking for deals. And then I read a lot of articles on car seat safety. I'm really big into like having the most up-to-date knowledge about that. Baby-led weaning is something I'm really interested in, so I like to be really educated on that. And I like to keep up to date on kind of popular culture things. Like I like to kind of know what's going on so that in conversations with people that I'm kind of able to be like, oh yeah, I heard about that too. Although it's not something that really interests me so much, I would say. Like it's more, I feel like I need to keep up to date with what's going on. So I have things to say to people. Because not everyone is as passionate about Pokemon as I am. I've tried and the conversation doesn't go that far, sadly. So yeah, that's kind of my day to day. One of the most stressful times in my life, it has to be right the past 3 months. When our 5th child was born, we thought she was perfect. It was an amazing delivery. My husband and I were like, we're going to have 3 more. We definitely are going to be able to have 8. It's going to be great. And then we realized 2 days later that she wasn't moving her left arm. And we found out that she had what's called a brachial plexus injury, also known as Erb's palsy. And it's from our midwife pulling excessively on her head during delivery, and causing potentially permanent nerve damage. And so that was just the most devastating kind of few days after finding out of my life. I was like, how did I not protect my child from this? How did I not know about this? How did I let this happen? What did I do wrong? What did I not research about during pregnancy that I should have known? Was there something wrong with my diet? Why didn't I stop my midwife from doing this? And so that has been really stressful because just constantly feeling like I let my daughter down because I did not do enough advertising, or not advertising, sorry, enough information gathering during my pregnancy to prevent such a horrible thing from happening to her. And to imagine that this could be a lifelong thing for her is just devastating for me. And we've had tons of hospital appointments where everyone's just like, oh, you just have to wait and see. And that is just infuriating to me because I just want to help her now. I want to do everything I can now to help her. And so that's been really hard. Luckily, she has started to move her arm, and she's doing so well. We cried so hard the first time that she moved her arm. It was just incredible. And it's still hard for me though, because I blame myself. I'm like, I keep telling my husband, I actually repeat it to him again and again and again, like, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I did something wrong. And I kind of have to keep saying it to him to help. I hope that it means that he'll say, no, it wasn't your fault. And he does, and he has most of the time, but he struggles with just how repetitive I am about having to talk about the same thing again and again. But it's really just been what I've needed to do to try to process it, and try to get validation that it wasn't my fault. Because we do want more kids, and I'm just so terrified that it's going to happen again, and I'm not going, and this time it will be my fault. If I choose to have another kid and it happens again, then that means that it is my fault and that I am in the wrong for that. So yeah, it's been incredibly stressful, trying to process all of that. And we loved our midwives so much, and to feel like one of them, did us wrong, has just been so sad because I trusted them as a source of knowledge. I even felt so close to them in the fact that I said, you know what, if I was to have a second career later, I would love to be a midwife because I'm just so passionate about the way they do their work. So yeah, that's probably been the most stressful thing in my life. What are some problems you see in the world? Definitely, I probably have a Marxist view on the world, that there are the haves and the have-nots. And I really feel like there are barriers that people get to where they just can't get any further. I think education, I think post-secondary education should be free for people, because I think people need to have more opportunities to be able to further and advance themselves. I think that food should be accessible to everybody, and I'm very passionate about veganism. I think people should stop eating meat so that there can be food given to the rest of the world that is given to animals for us to have one tiny little meat meal. It's just not worth it to me. I think there's a real problem with people feeling like their vote doesn't do anything when they're voting, or choosing not to vote. I strongly believe in voting. I think racial injustices are insane. I'm always getting mad at people for having such ignorance about the troubles that people go through based on just their race. And it is just so frustrating that people are like, you just need to work harder. I am so frustrated at people that are freaking out right now about people not wanting to work for minimum wage, when that's not a livable wage for people. And on top of that, the same people that are complaining about people not wanting to work for minimum wage anymore are the ones that said, if you don't like the payment you're getting, don't work for them. And so now that people are doing that, they're getting angry. It makes me, yes, very livid. So yeah, those are some big problems in the world. I am definitely pro government supports for the bare minimum at least. I think everyone should be fed, housed, and educated. And then from that point on, if they want to earn more and progress further, then they have a moment to actually be able to do that. Because when people are in extreme poverty, it's not as simple as, oh, just get a better job or just go to school. Like, there's so many things that are in the way that stop people from being able to do that. And I'm just talking North America. Like, it's even harder in other countries. Like, I can't even get started on that. But yeah, those are some problems in the world right now. The show Made on Netflix was really good at just showing how hard it is, even for the people that are living off the system, and how there's so many loopholes and such little ability to access these supports, that people that are able to get government supports should be commended just for their ability to be resourceful and their ability to actually present themselves to these agencies and say, I need help, and know where to get that help. That in itself is a huge accomplishment, and I don't think that it is recognized by people that have never been in a situation of poverty. And yeah, that's a real challenge that I have right now with the world around me. One of the best times in my life. That's a really hard one for me. I don't want to just single out certain things, but I would have to say my first natural delivery was a huge moment for me, to just feel like I can handle pain and discomfort, and I can do it without someone else's help. That was huge. That was a super impactful moment on my life. Meeting my husband in Honduras was huge too. I felt like I was finally making a choice for myself that wasn't with my mom involved. So that was huge for me. I was like, no, you know what? I like this man. This man is someone that just myself wants to get to know, and no input in my mother. Also, just having my son at 17 and moving out on my own, that was a really impactful moment in my life, of me just being able to, be in charge and control my situation and actually feel like I have say in my everyday life. So those are probably three, that's so silly. Three of the best times of my life have been husband, marriage, living on my own as a teenager, and having my daughter naturally, have been huge for me. Biggest challenge in my life, I talked about already. Oh, that's hard. Challenge is different than stressful. Basically, it goes with both the stressful and the issues in the world. So I have had a real challenge with trying to figure out how to be an advocate for people. And so that goes along with how I feel about the issues in the world right now. So that's been a challenge on how do I convince people that they are so ignorant of the challenges people face. So I try to be that person that had been like, you know what, I've been in poverty, and I am lucky that I'm someone that knows supports and have been able to benefit from them, but there's a lot of people that don't because it's so devastating. So that's been a challenge, kind of how to navigate that, but how to also have people think highly of me at the same time. I'm always afraid that people think that I have like abused the system or whatever it may be, and I'm like you are not seeing the whole picture. And then another challenge is also just being an advocate for my kids. And so for my daughter with her injury, I just want to be someone that educates everyone on this injury and help prevent it. And that's a challenge because I don't know how to do it. I am involved in kind of some mom and me programs, and I just don't know how to kind of start that conversation without scaring all these women that are having babies. But I just want them to know about the injury so that they can take the right steps to prevent it. But yeah, so those are kind of some big challenges that I'm going through right now. What would my ideal life look like in 10 years? Well, 10 years from now, I will be 36. I would like to have 3 more children. So we are hoping to end on twins because we do not want any youngest child, me and my husband. So if we had twins at the end, I know twins, you guys have said it's weird, but I just think that'd be good to not have a youngest child. And I think they'll be less weird because they'll have so many older siblings than a regular twin set. But it might not work out that way. Anyways, we're hoping for 8 children. That would be awesome if we could do that, and be done before I'm 35. I got lots of time. So, I want us to own a home, in 10 years. That's a really important thing for me, to just feel like I have a space that is beautiful. I want a beautiful home. I want it to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be that big, just beautiful, and I can pick how it looks. I want us to be, though, as sustainable as we can be in that time. I'm trying to slowly transition us out of using plastics that are one-time use. So I would hope in 10 years I'm not using bottles of shampoo anymore, or bottles of laundry soap or toothpaste, or all kinds of single-use plastics. That would be great if we could get that out of our lifestyle. I would love to still be home with my kids and not need to work. I think I might be involved in volunteering. I'd love to volunteer for like homeless shelters or food banks or any kind of community services that are kind of towards what my education was, but on either a very part-time capacity or volunteering only. I just want to be there for my kids, and I want to be able to spend all my time focusing on them and kind of making sure they have the resources that they need. What else would be in 10 years? I hope by then I can prove to people that having a big family is not a crazy thing to do, because that's been kind of I am so afraid of people judging me for having so many kids, and then at the same time I want to prove to them that it's fine and that it's awesome and I love it and I wouldn't change it for anything. And so I hope by then I have accomplished that. I would love to see my husband working in a job that he cares about, so he's not worried about us financially. Um, Maybe that's not me, but I guess that's to do with my life. That would be great. He's in school right now, so I would like him to be done with school. That would be great too. School, I feel like, just takes up 24/7 of his time. So if he could be not having to worry about that, that would be great. I think I also would hope that my relationship with my mom is improved and my siblings. I'd like to be able to have a good relationship with them, and be able to be involved in their lives more. I'd like to be able to. I used to want to travel internationally, and so does my husband, but I think now that we're trying to focus so much on environmental impacts, I would hope that we live somewhere where we could travel easier to kind of help people in our communities, maybe. I don't know what that would look like, but definitely just some way of, like I said, volunteering or giving back. But he would like to even do that with his job if possible. So that would be great. And I think those are the main things. Yeah, I hope I gave a clear picture of what my personality is like. I'm terrified to see, because I guess everyone ends up getting opinions on certain personalities, and I'm nervous. I hope I get what I would like, but if I don't, I won't be too mad. What else? Yeah, I think I didn't touch too much on friendships. It's been really hard since COVID to kind of see people. And I kind of live far away from a lot of my childhood friends. And to be completely honest, like, I struggle with friendships because I just kind of want to be the leader with everything. And I'm learning more in my adult life that's not really what that looks like in friendships. So I'm good at being people's teacher. I'm good at being people's boss. Not the best at being a friend. So I'm working on that. We're trying to get involved with more families to get to know people. And I have high hopes on finally making some local friends in the time to come. But yeah, thanks so much for listening. And I guess I'll figure out what you have to say soon. Bye.